It's Friday, everyone. What do we do on Fridays here at the Hint Hive? That's right, we smash the patriarchy. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Hint Hive, Amplifying Women's Voices. I'm Kelly Hint, Queen Bee of this hive, your guide, your cheerleader, and occasional feminist fire starter. And today, we're talking about a topic that's got its roots deep in history, but is still as relevant as ever. The role of women in social movements. From suffrage to today, women have always been the backbone of change. And let's be real, we've never just stood by in history. We have been leading the damn charge. So, whether you're new to activism or you've been in the trenches fighting the good fight, buckle up because we are diving into the power, the struggles, and the undeniable force of women in social change. Okay, before we get started, I literally just got a notification that the United States House of Representatives just passed a bill that will make it harder for married women and anyone who has changed their name since birth to vote. Now, given that this episode will be aired a week after the story broke, this may be old news to some of you listening. However, it just adds to the importance of the topic that we're talking about today. And also, I should note that I haven't quite processed my feelings about this, so I will not go into it on this episode for fear of losing my mind and yelling into the mic. And let's be real, no one wants to hear me turn into a lunatic today. I'm pretty sure about that. But I will just say that this is very concerning, and it is a great reason to really look into social movements and activism. Okay, so let's talk about the origins of women as the backbone of social movements. So first up, we've got to talk about history, right? Because listen, we need to know where we came from in order to understand where we are headed. Women have been leading movements for centuries. And one of the earliest and most well-known in the United States was the women's suffrage movement. We all know the names: Susan B. Anthony, Sojourner Truth, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Ida B. Wells. These women, they were not just fighting for voting rights. They were fighting for the recognition of women as full citizens. And let's not forget, women of color had to fight even harder. The 19th Amendment was passed in 1920, but Jim Crow laws and other racist barriers kept many Black, Indigenous, Latina, and Asian women from voting for decades. Yes, decades. It wasn't until the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that Black women and other marginalized groups were legally protected from voter suppression tactics like literacy tests and poll taxes that had been used to keep them from the ballot box. But, of course, let's also give credit where it's due. Women of color were not just fighting for their own right to vote. They were also on the front lines of the broader suffrage movement, often leading efforts that white suffragists refused to acknowledge. Ida B. Wells, for example, famously refused to march in the segregated section of a 1913 suffrage parade, making a bold stand for racial justice within the movement. Women like Mabel Ping-Hua Lee, a Chinese immigrant activist, fought for voting rights even though the Chinese Exclusion Act meant that she wouldn't personally benefit from them at the time. And Native American women had to continue their fight even after 1924, when the Indian Citizenship Act granted them U.S. citizenship, because many states still barred them from voting. The road to suffrage was long and complex, but women have always persisted, knowing that the right to vote is a cornerstone of power and representation. But we did not stop at voting. Women have been at the front lines of labor rights, civil rights, LGBTQ+ rights, reproductive rights, climate justice, disability rights, immigrant rights, and countless other movements demanding justice and equity. Whether it was organizing the massive garment workers' strikes in the early 20th century, or spearheading anti-discrimination laws, or mobilizing for policies that protect reproductive freedoms, women have consistently been the driving force of change. And let's not forget the women who continue to lead today, fighting for fair wages, advocating for survivors of sexual violence, and taking a stand for environmental and racial justice, often while facing systemic barriers themselves. The Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire in 1911 was a devastating tragedy that became a catalyst for women-led labor activism. The fire claimed the lives of 146 garment workers, most of them young immigrant women, due to unsafe working conditions and locked exit doors. In response, women like Clara Lemlich, alongside the International Ladies Garment Workers Union, led mass protests and strikes demanding safer working environments, fair wages, and labor protections. Their relentless activism led to landmark reforms in workplace safety regulations, many of which still shape labor laws today. Women also played critical roles in the civil rights movement. Rosa Parks, Ella Baker, Fannie Lou Hamer, and so many more. And let's not forget the impact of Indigenous women who have fought to preserve their lands, cultures, and rights, leading to movements like Idle No More. Now, fast forward to today. Women are still leading, and we're doing it in every space imaginable. From the Women's March to the Me Too movement, from the fight for reproductive rights to the battle for racial justice, gender equity, and LGBTQ+ rights, women, particularly women of color, are putting in the work. Whether it's leading protests, crafting policies, mobilizing communities, or simply refusing to stay silent in the face of injustice, we are here. And let's be clear, activism does not look like just one thing. It's in the streets, in the boardrooms, in our schools, and yes, even in our everyday conversations. And honestly, you don't have to be marching in the streets in order to be part of a movement. There are countless ways to engage that are just as vital and impactful. Signing petitions, calling your representatives, educating yourself and others, supporting women-led organizations, attending local meetings, voting in every election, yes, even the small ones, all of it matters. Mentoring younger women, amplifying marginalized voices, writing letters to the editor, or even initiating tough conversations with family and friends. These are all forms of activism. In a world that often tries to silence or sideline us, any act of resistance, no matter how small it may seem, is powerful. Do not underestimate the power of activism. And when done collectively, these small acts create unstoppable waves of change. One of the most recent acts of resistance in the news was I think it was called the hands-off protest that happened all over the United States. And it was a movement of people coming together to protect the Constitution and our rights as citizens. And my newsfeed was flooded with pictures from major cities to small towns, with people lining the streets with their signs demanding constitutional rights. And it was so powerful when I saw it. It gave me goosebumps. And I know for a fact that some of you listening right now were part of that. And I applaud you. And I'm jealous because I wish I could have been part of that movement. In the thing that I want to say about protests, on the surface, they change nothing, right? Like we see people holding signs, blah, 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 whatever. And it's like, okay, yeah, they're expressing their opinions, but nothing is changing. However, I disagree with that in the sense that when you see an entire country coming together on an issue, it is powerful. The optics of it are inspiring. And it also helps us to feel like, hey, I'm not alone in this. I'm not the only one suffering. I'm not the only one angry. So I do believe that protests on the surface aren't an immediate change agent, right? It's not going to change anything immediately. However, it demonstrates a large concentration of people who are unhappy with something that's going on. And I think that that is incredibly powerful. For example, after George Floyd was murdered and all of the Black Lives Matter protests were happening, that opened up so many people's eyes, so many people not of color who didn't realize just how badly the Black community was taking hits. It's embarrassing in this country to know that there were people who didn't understand. I was one of them. I didn't recognize the depth of racism in this country. I knew it still existed, but I did not understand the depth of it. And so watching all of these protests happen inspired me to educate myself. And my husband, he and I both, we sat and we consumed as many documentaries as we could. We wanted to educate ourselves on Black history because we didn't understand some of the things that were being talked about. And we're like, hey, we'd never heard that before. So all of this happened because of protests. So I just used this as an example of how powerful your activism can be. While it may not flip a switch immediately and change things, it is an amazing visual to see all of these people coming together for a cause. And let's talk about digital activism, because it's not just posting memes or hashtags. Social media has completely transformed how movements grow and how voices are heard. Take hashtag Black Lives Matter and hashtag Me Too, for example. These didn't just trend, they literally mobilized millions. They influenced legislation, exposed systemic abuses, and created space for survivors and activists to tell their stories in real time. Talk about powerful. And women, especially women of color, have led the charge using platforms like Twitter, because I refuse to call it X, Instagram, and TikTok to educate, organize, and push for justice. And while some folks still dismiss this as clicktivism, let's get real. Digital activism builds awareness, shifts narratives, sparks conversations that traditional media often ignore, and gets people out in the streets. It is a modern megaphone, and when women wield it, the world listens. So, what holds women back? Well, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Burnout. Women are not only leading movements, but we're also expected to do it while managing households, raising children, pursuing careers, caring for elders, and holding the emotional center of our families and communities. That's a lot, and it's constant. And let's be real, systemic barriers make it even harder. Misogyny, racism, ableism, lack of representation in leadership, financial disparities, and the pressure to always be on all play a role in burnout. We are asked to be superhuman while navigating a world that still undervalues our work, our voices, and our pain. And here's another piece of this puzzle. Women's activism is often unpaid, undervalued, or outright erased. Many of the movements we celebrate today were built on the backs of women who never got the spotlight, handling logistics, coordinating volunteers, preparing meals, creating art, writing speeches, and nurturing the emotional well-being of entire communities. This invisible labor has been essential and yet consistently overlooked, even as women balanced these efforts with caregiving, full-time jobs, and community responsibilities. And this isn't just history, it is happening right now. Women continue right now to be the backbone of social movements, offering time, labor, and expertise without recognition or compensation. I think it's about damn time that we honor and uplift this work as the powerful force that it is. So, how do we keep pushing forward without burning out? Well, here's where strategy comes in. So let's talk action steps on how to be part of the change without losing ourselves. The first step, find your role in the movement. Because not everyone needs to be on the front lines, and that's okay. There's no one role that's more important than the other. Movements thrive when people show up in the ways that align with their strengths, their passions, and capacity. For example, are you a writer? Well, then use your words to educate and inspire. Are you good at organizing? Okay, cool. Help plan rallies, fundraisers, or community meetings. Do you love social media? Well, then use your platform to amplify voices and share critical information. Or maybe you're a great listener. Okay, so then offer emotional support to those on the front lines. Activism is not one size fits all. It's a mosaic of talent and effort. And every single role, no matter how visible, is vital to the cause. In the next step, set boundaries and prioritize rest. Because, and hear me now, and of course this applies to every area of our lives, you cannot pour from an empty cup. And let's be real, burnout is not a badge of honor, it's a warning sign. Even though some of us carry around our burnout like a damn trophy, no, it is a warning sign. And hear me out. Rest is a revolutionary act in a world that expects women to carry the weight of everything without flinching. We need to stop glorifying exhaustion and start valuing restoration. That means giving yourself permission to unplug, say no, and step away when you need to. Whether it's a full-on break or just a few deep breaths in the middle of chaos, rest is not just self-care, it is resistance. Prioritizing your well-being is not selfish, it is strategic. You are not the movement's martyr. You are its fuel, and you deserve to be replenished. In the next step, support women-led movements. Donate to grassroots groups, volunteer your time, show up to their events, or use your platform to elevate voices that are often silenced or sidelined. If you have the privilege of time, money, skills, or a network, use it. Support does not have to look the same for everyone, but it does have to be intentional. Seek out the organizations and initiatives run by women, especially women of color, LGBTQ+ women, and disabled women, who are making a tangible impact in their communities. Whether it's contributing monthly to a cause, sharing their work online, or offering professional services pro bono, these actions add up. Because allyship is not passive, it's practice. In the next step, educate yourself and others. Learn about movements past and present. Read books, watch documentaries, listen to podcasts, and follow organizers and historians who tell the full, unfiltered stories. And don't just skim headlines, dig deep, especially into the narratives of women of color, queer women, and disabled women who have shaped activism in ways mainstream history often erases. And then, pass that knowledge on. Host a book club. Share what you've learned in conversations or online, and encourage others to engage too. Because knowledge is power, but shared knowledge, that, my queens, is community-fueled activism. As a matter of fact, I myself am currently in the process of looking into how I can increase my activism by holding local meetings with fellow like-minded people who want to improve the conditions in this country. But I also have to recognize where my burnout level is, because it's getting close to burnout, and so I have to be very careful about it. But still, in my times of rest, I am looking into how I can do more. All right, next step. Use your voice where it matters. Your voice, ladies, is your power. Do not underestimate it. Vote in every election, big and small, because local policies shape our daily lives just as much as national ones. Call and write your representatives, because yes, it makes a difference. And use scripts if you're nervous, or even better, share your personal story. Push back against harmful policies and speak truth to power, whether it's in a town hall, a PTA meeting, your workplace, or your own family. And don't just speak, demand to be heard in the spaces where women's voices are often ignored or dismissed. Use your voice in whatever way feels authentic, through writing, speaking, creating, or organizing. and use it to uplift those who are silenced. And the next step that you can take, build a community. Surround yourself with people who share your passion, your fire, and your vision. Whether it's an in-person organizing circle, a virtual discussion group, or a few trusted friends who hold you accountable and lift you up. Find your people. Movements do not thrive in isolation. They thrive in connection. Collaboration often brings energy, fresh ideas, and resilience. Community is where we go to recharge, regroup, and remember why the hell we started. Support is not just a feel-good concept. It's a strategic necessity for long-term activism and sustainability. This is one of the intentions behind my creation of the Hint Hive. I am gathering an army of women and allies who are going to change the world. I don't care if I'm just a tiny voice. Together, we will roar. And we will be a force to be reckoned with. Am I right, queens? All right. And the last step here, recognize intersectionality. No movement exists in isolation. Feminism must be inclusive of race, class, disability, and gender identity to be truly effective. Let's learn from the mistakes of our foremothers. All right, my hive. You know I love a good quote, so here's your quote of the week. Dolores Huerta said, "Every moment is an organizing opportunity. Every person a potential activist. Every minute a chance to change the world." Boom. Let that sink in. Let that marinate in your brains. Activism isn't just about big moments. It's in the everyday choices that we make. And because I'm feeling generous, here's another one for the road. Frederick Douglass said, "Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will." So ladies, let that be a reminder. Change does not come from waiting politely. All right, Hive, here's my challenge for you. Choose one action this week, just one, that moves the needle for a movement that you care about. Maybe that means signing up for a local organization that aligns with your values, or attending a town hall, or finally making that donation that you've been putting off. Perhaps it's sharing a well-researched article with your network, having a hard but necessary conversation with a loved one, or carving out time to rest. Yes, rest, as a radical act of self-care and resistance. Whatever your step looks like, make it intentional. No matter how big or small it feels, it matters, I promise you. The ripple effect of one empowered action can inspire another and another until we build the kind of collective momentum that's impossible to ignore. And of course, let's keep this conversation going. Join our Facebook group, the Hint Hive. You can find it in the episode description, where we uplift and empower each other. And if this episode lit a fire in you, share it with your people. Let's spread the movement, one empowered woman at a time. All right, that's all for today, queens. stay loud, stay bold, and I'll catch you next time on the Hint Hive, amplifying women's voices. This podcast is powered by Kelly Hint Empowerment Coaching, as well as Kelly M. Hint LMHC and The Cranky Counselor. To find out more about coaching services, head over to CoachKellyHint.com. If you'd like to know more about the psychotherapy services I offer to individuals within the state of New York, you can check out KellyMHint.com. And if you'd like to learn more about aromatherapy, you can check out TheCrankyCounselor.com.